Hi there everyone, and welcome back to part 2 of the Jade and Succulent weekend. As you can see, I've pulled together some of the Jades and Succulents that I have. This is a percentage of them, I will say. I'm not going to go too much further than that. But we have the normal, the Jade, which was, a lot of these are cuttings from two main trees that we had. One that I got my hands on probably about 3 years ago, which was yesterday's project that we were working on, that clump style tree. We started a jade forest very early on the channel, so that's this planting here. We did a surprise planting, which is this one that's growing up very nicely, that we need to do a bit of work on. It seems to have some woolly aphids or something on there, so we need to do some tidy up work on that. And I'll just take you around the rest of the the jades and the succulents, just so that you can see what we've got and what we're going to be working with. So first of all, we have the ovipharum. We have Gollum jade. There's a number of small cuttings of the Gollum jade. We have the Echeveria painted lady that's in flower. We have the agavoids, which is also in flower, so that's the Echeveria agavoids. We have the lots of jade plantings cuttings, jade planting cuttings, hens and chicks, lots of those. We started off with just really one that it's starting to trail off into lots of different directions, and we got another plant in here where we just put a few in, and it's just really gone for it, gone really nice. We have the Echeveria Hufspink, so that we've got some work to do with. We can see there we got one with a big trunk in there, which was cut back and it's flowered off on both sides, so we'll transplant those. We've got the green velvet, the Echeveria green velvet, which has got a nice trunk in there, so we'll have that and see what we can do with that. And then we've just got more and more jade cuttings, and you look the size of the leaves there, they've done really well. And then more cuttings, and you can see there the size of the leaves, they're doing really well. I need to try and find homes for a lot of these, because they're too good to throw away, and I'd rather somebody take them and have some really nice happy times with them. So let's get inside and work on the succulents for the beginning of today, and some of the jades also. We also have a string of pearls here that I keep walking past and keep forgetting to mention. That's flowered this year, that's done well, that's done really nicely. And if you just look on the wall, we've got some of the trees that we've worked on so far this year, and some young saplings that are growing through. So there's the jade from yesterday, Gay's Bonsai sat there nice and happy, a terrarium of succulents, the jade from yesterday, the dawn redwood, which I'm looking forward to letting grow and get some work from that. We've got a sapling that was collected. It was bent into some sort of shape, and now we just need to let it grow so that we can turn that into some form of bonsai. We have the larch that's come through nicely, that was ordered from Amazon. We have the Chinese elm that is pretty much dead. It's just there just to fill the space at the moment, but I think we'll be taking that out and transporting that into the bin. So here we are back inside now. We have a Echeveria Huff's Pink in front of me. Now this has been cut back and replanted so many times. I've kind of lost count the amount of times we've done it. Basically the standard process would be cut it back to about that level, trim the bottom leaves off, and then put it back into the pot nice and clear, and then probably just throw away the bottom part, or if it was going into another pot, it would be left in to see if it would branch out and carry on growing, which it probably would. But for today, what I want to do is I want to just have a look and see what this would look like if we were to take all the leaves off and have it as a trunk going up, leaving the bit of foliage at the top. So I'm going to just start taking the leaves away. You can normally just twist these off, yeah. So rather than going in with the scissors, we will just twist these off. These are the same as most succulents and jades. If you lay them on soil or just put the lower part into soil, they will root from there and germinate really well. So if you wanted to make more, you could make lots more with these leaves that are coming off, but I must throw these in the bin. So it's got some dead leaves at the bottom where they weren't getting too much light and they weren't taking up much water. We'll just take off the last few. So it is quite thick down at the bottom, so it had started thickening up quite nicely. And if you wanted it as some sort of tall tree, you could literally just pull all these bottom leaves off and create this type of planting, which would be quite different in most displays if it was to be used as some sort of accent plant tree to go with some other tree that you've got on a display. The only thing is these leaves at the top are quite big, so you'd probably end up taking it back just to the two top leaves, and then if you were to do that, this plant pot would be a little bit too big, so you'd probably be looking at either something this sort of size to put it in. So if we were to put that in front of there like that, you can see that's what it could look like coming out of there. Or if we try to just lower that down a bit more, it could look a bit like that. But we're not looking to do that, so what we are going to do is we're going to cut the trunk off around about here. We'll remove the trunk that's already in and just shuffle the soils really good. We'll sort the soil out and put a little bit more in and replant it so that the leaves are just at the bottom of the soil and it's nice and squat as a succulent should be. They shouldn't be long and leggy like this really. If they're long and leggy like this, it normally means they're reaching out for the sun. The strange thing is these ones that I have, they sit in the windows and they do get quite a bit of light, but it might just be that there's literally not enough light, so they're always reaching out for additional light. So we'll take this off to here, and that's where we're going to replant back in, and then we'll just lift the old trunk out of the pot, and we'll just see what root system it had developed. We'll just comb out the roots, and you can see that it had quite a good amount of fine roots that it was growing from. So yeah, it's done really, really well, but that's now going to go with the rest of that, and we will get tidied up, get the soil sorted out, take a little bit out and add a bit more in, and get this little fella replanted back in. We might just take a few more leaves off of the bottom here, probably about 6 of the leaves down to that level. I'll do that while I'm here so you can see, and that'll allow the leaves to sit nice and squat on top of the soil and maybe encourage it to stay there a little bit. So we're back with our pot nice and clean, all the roots and everything, the residue removed and most of the soil taken out and some replenished. So I'm just going to create a little slot for the trunk to drop into. We do need to take a bit more off as we did lower the leaves a little bit more, so we'll take it to there, and that's going to allow that to sit in a lot nicer. So we'll just put in some soil at the top, that's going to allow the leaves just to sit on top of the soil, and we'll just create a little bit of a divot for it to go into, encourage it to go in. That's going in quite nicely, but I think we just need to fill it up a little bit more. And then we'll put the top dressing in. And that will give our level for the leaves to sit on. Just create the hole and then just allow it to sit in. And what we'll do is we'll let that sit for a while. We'll not water it straight away, and then probably tomorrow we'll give the top level of it a good watering. And that's it now, sat nicely in its little pot, and that's how they should be. But it will undoubtedly shoot back up and reach for the sky once more. So I'm going to do the same with this one as well, but I'll do that off camera, and then that will go back into a position. I just wanted to show you at least one of them being done. And again, you know, it could go into one of these pots, and you could have varying heights of where to sit it at. You know, maybe even one of the smaller blue pots that we got, the really, really small ones, you know, a little bit of soil in them and the tiniest bit of cutting, and that would go in nicely. So now we have the Echeveria green velvet, and this again is supposed to be a nice squat succulent that sits and all the leaves are nice and tight and balled together, but this one reaches for the sky, and I sort of got the idea of, I wonder what it would look like as some sort of trying to make it resemble like an upright pine sort of style. So before I repot it, I just wanted to capture it on camera, and just obviously we'll take off all these bottom leaves and then create some division as we go up, and see what it would look like as a trying to trick to be like an upright pine. So we'll start by taking off the lower leaves. Just work our way around the tree. Again, you can do the same thing with these leaves. They will grow on. An old leaf there. So now my thought was, we've got these leaves here that look like they're kind of dropping down, and then there's some in the middle, and then they go up. So I kind of thought to myself, I wonder what it would look like if we were to try and make it like that pine style. So here we go with that. We'll just try and take out the right leaves that will help make it look that way. So we've got our bottom set of leaves there. We can leave those, take that one out, and then we've got this level of leaves that we can leave in, and then we can take out, work our way up. I'll probably end up doing the same sort of thing. This will get cut off to about here and bobbed back into the soil, but I just wondered what it would look like trying to be some sort of pine. Beginning to look quite interesting. So we've got our bottom level of branches there, which are the ones that would normally hang down. We've got our middle set of branches there, which would come straight out, and then you've got your apex up the top, and then we would have, you'd have a nice tight apex of quite a big, a very busy nest of apex branches and structure. It's kind of interesting, I would say. I don't really want to take any more out of the top here to get a full feel for what it would look like. But now we've got a look for what that kind of looks like. I'm going to take off the rest of the bottom leaves to see what it would look like as maybe like a broom style tree. Just leave the top ones on. And they call this the green velvet, obviously with it being green, and then it's very velvety to the touch, and it's even really velvety on the trunk. It feels really nice. So now we've got it as a little upright thing that looks interesting again. Yeah, that was quite interesting to see what it would look like. I don't think the trying to make it look like a formal upright pine type tree really works with it. It wasn't too bad. Whether it would work going at the side of a pine might do, maybe. But again, we'd be looking at planting this at that sort of level and getting that down onto the soil. And again, probably you could look to put it into the smaller pot, because obviously it'd be there with the main tree. So after all of that, we will cut it off, and we'll do the same as we just did with this one and get it repotted back in. So we're all cleaned up, and I've replaced the soil fully in this one, and I'm just going to put the top layer of the potting grit in position. And then we'll just create a little bit of a hole for the trunk to go into. And there it is, sits in there really nice. And again, we'll not water it straight away, we'll let it settle, and we'll water it probably tomorrow and let it continue settling in. So that's the Echeveria green velvet. So this is kind of how the succulents should stay, nice and squat in the pot. These we've never really had to do anything with, and they've flowered nicely this year. This one's got 3 lots of flowering branches on it, this one's got 2, and we've got a few more around that have all flowered up and doing really well. So this one is the Echeveria painted lady, has these lovely yellowy, orange and pink flowers on them, so they look really nice. They could do as a bit of an accent plant with anything that you might want to show off. I've seen them plenty of times where the flowers, you know, the flowering stems are just coming out, and I've seen them where they're literally just the succulent on its own, and it sits there at the side as a nice looking, you know, difference to the main tree. And again, the same with the agavoids, Echeveria agavoids, that this one is, that we're waiting to see what these flowers are going to look like. They look like they're going to be a pinky green, but this is the first time I'm seeing these, so this will be quite interesting to see how they flower and what they come out like. So we're not going to do anything with these, they're perfectly fine as they are. I just wanted to show them as, you know, another option for the accent type of plants, along with the green velvet and the huffspink that we've got there. They grow really strongly and really well. These were a bit smaller when we got them, and they've grown quite strong, but they've maintained that tight compactness, whereas the other Echeverias, the huffspink and the green velvet, have just reached out for sunlight and gone for it. So I don't fully know what the difference has been for them, and hopefully we'll try and work that out and come up with an answer as to why these have stayed shorter while the others have really gone leggy and reached out for sunlight. I also have some really nice small Gollum jades, of which I've got a number of Gollum jades about this size, and they just seem to be maintaining their size, and you know, they're just filling out nicely within the foliage areas that they've got there, instead of really taking off and becoming, you know, leggy or you know, branchy and becoming uncontrollable. So they're doing quite nicely in these little pots, but I do expect over a long period of time they'll become a big tree, and you know, we'll be probably taking more cuttings off of those. So we've just got a couple of dead bits that I'm just going to take off the branches, and there's a few dead bits in the soil that we'll just take away. But on the whole, they're doing nicely. I'm just going to put a little bit of the potting grit into the top of these, just to finish them off. There's some nice small bits, so I don't really want that great big rock. Some nice small gravelly bits, and that sets it off quite nicely. This potting grit is really good for topping off any of the plantings that we've got. It's done as proud, so I'm really happy that I started using it. So I'll just do the same with this one, try and use the smaller bits again. very fine and gravelly. Some of this small stuff really good. Just get it around the back. And that actually looks quite well. No need to repot it, there's no problems with them. They're holding nice and compact without going into a bigger pot. I don't really want them to grow into big trees yet anyway, so as we get that idea and go further down the line, we may repot them into bigger pots to allow them to really go for it. But as they are at the moment, they're nice little accent type plants that yeah, they're doing quite nicely for us. So this was a large planting that I made up. That it looked really nice, but some of the plants grew really well, and some of them kind of died off. It did get a little bit cold at one stage, and the frost kind of got the middle, and I think there was a jade right in the middle of this, and that died, unfortunately. Once you've frosted a jade, you don't normally get it back. I was surprised that most of the rest of this made it and came back nicely. But what we do have is we have a green velvet which was planted in as where we'd taken the cuttings from, and also the Huff's Pink that was where we also took cuttings from. So the intention, I think, is to, I don't know whether you can actually see, there's the main trunk of that one, there's lots of little growths coming off. So I think what we'll do is we'll either take the main trunk out and get it potted into its own pot, make it nice and safe, and then take babies off it as we need it. And the same here with the Huff's Pinks. That's giving out lots of chicks, kits, and this is also giving out lots of chicks as well. But it's going to take a little bit of separation to get that done. So for now, it's not something that we need. So I am just going to leave it in there. I just wanted to show you that it's some future stuff coming up to be able to work on. You know, these that have branched and divided into multiples, because you normally just see them as the cluster. You don't normally get a great big grouping like that. So we might get some pots and get them potted up separately, and then maybe make some sort of bedding and bring them all back together, but in bigger clumps, etc. But we'll work that out as we go forward. So here we have the jade planting that we was one of the earlier videos that we did. I'll put a link to the previous video. In fact, I'll make a bit of a series for that, and this can be incorporated into that same series. So this was the multi-trunk planting that we took out of a larger pot, and it came out all as one. And it's continued to do really well, but it's just going to need some pruning back at the top, and just some tidying up so that we can see the branches a lot better. We may leave this growth down here. We did leave the trunk down there at the bottom, so we'll allow the growth to come up there, create a little bit of a green feature down lower, but we will take off the ones that are coming up on the other trunks. What we'll also do is these lower great big leaves, we'll get rid of those as well. So we'll start over here by getting rid of them. We'll try and twist them off, but where they don't want to twist, we'll cut them back. So there's lots of really big juicy leaves to take off. They're actually not coming off super well, but we'll work our way around. So We've got all these really big leaves all over. This one's a little bit low, so needs to come off. We've got this one coming out here, so we'll just take that away because we're only going to leave this little cluster in here as our little feature. Much more big leaves again around. I'll just keep going around the planting and keep taking them off. So you can see here there's lots of these big leaves. We'll just get rid of those. Lots and lots of these really big leaves that are just really out of proportion with what we're going to be looking for. So we'll just keep working around, and you'll notice that the canopy is starting to form just by taking off these large leaves. There's some on the inside that just need taking away, so we'll work at those, get those taken away, and they will shrivel up and die back, so we don't have to worry too much about getting everything off. But there really is a lot of these big, thick, juicy leaves. It's always a shame to take them off, but when we're trying to create what we're trying to create, they just look totally out of place. So we just need to lower the top of these. So I'm just going to take the top 2 or 3 leaves off, depending on where we're at. There's a giant leaf there that just needs to come off. I'll take this one off also. Some of them will need to stay on for the health of the tree and the good of the tree. There's a great big leaf here that is on the inside competing with everything, and another one in here. So we've got a lot taken off so far. So you can see we've tidied up a lot of that, and there just is a lot of these large big leaves all the way around, as you are going to get with a jade, because every node 2 leaves, and they just grow really well. So we'll leave those top big leaves on there. They will be coming off going forward, and we'll just get into this other side, take the tops off. Same round the back here. Take off these really big leaves. Some really big leaves, and hopefully they'll come through a little bit smaller going forward. And just take the tops off of each of the new growth, just to stop it going too far out of control. Kind of need to keep it as tight back as we can. We have a branch here that's dividing into, it divides into 2 and then subsequently divides into 2 or 3, so that is going to need sorting out, but I'm just going to allow it to grow ever so slightly, and then we'll come back to that in a couple of 3 months time and just see whether we can, you know, tighten up the ramification and work it so that we work it back in. We've got these leaves that are growing out of the trunks. We can just rub those off, because they will grow and they'll become their own branches, and they'll really take off if we leave them, so we don't even want them to develop. So we're down to our own little cluster of growth down here, but I will just take the tops off those to stop them becoming too big, and we'll try and keep that, you know, tight into those first couple of leaves that are coming off the top there. So we'll just have a quick look for where we are. A couple of leaves that can come out that are growing inwards and competing for space. So we'll just take those away. It's very dense in here, so looking for the bigger ones that are occupying all the space. Just taking those out where we can. So this trunk comes up, divides into two there. This one comes up, divides into two here. So, you know, the continuation of the sub branching is really good. And then it divides into two here. So we just need to take that back and that back, just to get the length of ramification back into order. And we'll do the same across the whole of that branching and tree, so it doesn't take off too much. So we'll take that back to there, and this one needs to go back to there, which is, so we've got it coming up into two there, and then into two again, and the divisions are getting shorter and shorter, and then the top of the canopy is going to be around about here. So we'll just try and do that with the rest of the branches as best we can. Some of them are just growing back in, so it's a little bit awkward to do it, but we can take the top off of that one. We've already taken the top off of that one, and there's the top off of that one. And we'll just take the top off of that one. So yeah, we're starting to get the ramification in that lot. So if we go around to the next trunk and branch and trees, we can take this one back to here. This comes up, divides multiple times at different levels. There's a large leaf on the inside that I can take away. So we've got rid of that. Then we can just take the top off there, and then this one's growing quite a bit heavier, so we'll take the top off of that. And then we just need to take the top off of that one and the top off of that one. I need to just take the top off one around the front that I missed, and that's going to cause a lot of ramification going outwards, which is going to make a lot of this tighter. So the next time we visit this, what we'll probably be doing is defoliating and taking off all of the leaves and allowing it to grow back with some nice small leaves. So that's our surprise planting as it was described, because it was quite a surprise to me how it came out of the pot and went straight into this nice shallow pot and created, you know, a nice multi-trunk bonsai, for which there is 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm going to say 5 because that's a twin trunk, 6 wouldn't be good because it'd be an even number, so I'm calling it a 5, even though that down the bottom becomes a twin trunk. If it bothers me that much, we can always take that away, but this is our little green feature down below, and then all this is going to come up to here. The greenery from here needs to start growing up even higher. There's a large leaf there that I missed. Really big, thick, juicy leaves these, they're really good. So going forward, we'll be coming back, tidying up the branches and the trunks yet again, concentrating on our beginning height for where the divisions are, which they start here and then work their way up, and it will be on the second set of divisions that we want to be able to start filling out the canopy. So we've kind of got to that inner fashion at the moment. There's just one more leaf around there that was coming in at that lower level, and there's one large leaf on the inside just there that needs to go, and I've just spotted yet another one on the inside there that needs to go. So that now is our planting that can go back and carry on growing nicely. We'll leave it alone, we'll water it along with all of the others, and we'll see how it goes on. So it's back outside now. We'll allow it to grow on for a period of time, and it's got the start of a good, nice planting, bonsai planting for this. So that's the end of part 2. We'll see you again in part 3.